All right, everybody, what is going on? Welcome to another episode of Talking Buffalo, your weekday daily driver for Buffalo Sports Talk and more. My name is Patrick Moran. Thank you for locking in, whether you're listening to this audio podcast form, whether you're watching this on video, actually streaming this live on Sunday night. Joined for my weekly chat with Toe Pucks. Let me start with a story real quick before we get into this game. It's kind of related to it. So yesterday, Saturday, it was a good buddy of mine's birthday. He turned 40 years old, and I tied one on yesterday, man. I'm too old for that shit. You know, we could sit down, we could have a handful of beers, and we're fine. But at our age, you're not really supposed to be pounding shots. And I did. And it was one of those get up on Sunday and check your Uber receipt to see what time and where you came home from kind of nights for me on Saturday. Anyway, I did not even get up out of bed until like 12:30. And all I wanted to do was go back to sleep. And watching this game today, as we tape this on Sunday night, I kind of wish I would have just stayed in bed and stayed sleeping. What a disgraceful, embarrassing loss to a team that, if you paid attention this season, New England is so bad. 44% of their drives for the season were 3 and outs coming into this game. And the Bills lose 29-25. They're 4-3 on the season. They've lost to Zach Jones, they've lost to Matt Jones. They've lost to Zach Wilson. They were a yard away from losing to Rod Taylor. They're a yard away from being 3-4 right now. Where do we even start with this?
The only way that this episode should have opened up is by you turning to me and saying, Pucks, 2 weeks ago when this team lost Daquan Jones and Matt Milano, you said that the championship window was closed for this year, and doubled down by saying that they will lose one of their next 3 games. How did I ever get so lucky as to have someone as smart at sports as you on my bullshit? I don't want to call you the bullshit podcast. It's doing very well, and I wish you continued success. But how did someone as smart as you, how did I land someone as smart as you for this podcast?
That's how I should have started.
That's how that shit should have started.
You know?
All right. But listen, hold up.
Good.
I'll wait for later in the episode when I land the fucking trifecta on you with the Greenway Cousins Thompson line that I was certain all off season was going to be put back together with Middlestat, Skinner, and Tuck. All right. Yeah. I'll save all the how smart I am stuff, for when I can throw that little Sabres tidbit in there as well. But I will still continue to offer both you and your listeners more knowledge on the Buffalo Bills performance today and where the season currently stands going forward. So here's what I think's happened. May I continue? Am I okay to keep going?
Go ahead, man.
All right.
Run it.
Today, I think all of the fans' worries as they related to the first 6 weeks of what we've seen from the Bills, what we've witnessed on the injury front as well, I think all those worries surfaced today. Every single one of them was proven to be a legitimate worry by the end of today. Okay. The defense's injuries, the offense's inefficiency. Everybody had their concerns, and a lot of them were founded, even though a lot of people threw stats out there this week to try to make them seem somewhat unfounded. Now I think I hope we're all in agreement that these concerns were very much justified. What also is happening, I believe, is those concerns that I think kind of organically came around through the first 6 weeks of the season. Those are intersecting with some of the warts that a lot of the off-season naysayers felt existed with this team. All right. All of these are coming together in what I believe is a disastrous point in the season, because I don't think that's overstating it. 4-3 with that schedule what it was through the first half of the season,
Right.
the injuries that we've suffered, and the success of the Miami Dolphins, for regardless of our performance against them, we're in disaster mode. Do we have to be in season over mode? No. The season had a lot of hope. It would take a lot to be over when it comes to, this roster, and quite frankly, the benefit of like 15 fucking playoff spots now out of 32 NFL teams. It would be wrong to consider it over from that regard. But this is a disastrous start.
It is. I go back to 2 weeks ago. You and I were sitting on the patio doing a live show at Imperial Pizza, and the discussion came up. This was after beating Miami and looking really good doing it. We talked about where the Bills due for a letdown, and as idiotic as I feel saying it now, I'll say 2 weeks ago at that time, I sat there and told you that I feel like the Bills won't have any kind of letdowns because of the trenches. I remember saying the trenches, and holy shit, man, that is really unraveled amongst a lot of other things over these last couple games. I agree with everything you said, by the way, when it comes to the season where this team stands. And I especially agree about the injury front because it didn't matter too much against the Giants. It shouldn't have mattered against the Patriots, but holy shit, did it matter today against the Patriots. Matt Milano being out, that is killing them. Dorian Williams, a week ago, he looked really good. I talked about him specifically on the show, watched them all 22. I'm like, man, this guy's got, potential for days. Cover One did an excellent 20-minute film session on his highlights and some things he needs to work on. One game later, he gets benched for Tyrell Dodson, who, quite frankly, wasn't much better. But then the biggest thing, Daquan Jones, let me ask you this. And this is kind of it's a dumb question, but it kind of serves a point, I feel like. Daquan Jones, Matt Milano, Trey White. If you could have one of them back and one only right now on this football team, who would you have? And I ask you that because I think that might represent what you think they're missing the most from a player being gone.
Well, I mean, for me, it's Milano.
Is it?
Yeah. Jones has proven to be maybe, and a lot of people thought it was big, but maybe even bigger than a lot of people thought. Or maybe just us two fucking idiots. All right. Yeah. Because was anybody else out there really saying, oh, I think they're going to be okay because of Poona Ford? Well, Poona Ford's been terrible. Yeah. We both thought he was, the break the glass in case of Daquan Jones injury. Sure. And we were both okay with that. And we were both dead wrong. So, yes, the Jones injury in that regard, because we got the depth pieces so wrong, or at least one of them wrong. Milano, though, man, all right. I mean, there have been plays that have changed games that would just be a 6-8 yard gains with Milano and his sheer tackling. I mean, I think of the screen today when in the final drive. Everyone knows what I'm talking about. The fucking screen that opened up that Patriots drive.
You mean the one that Jordan Phillips whipped out of tackle?
And that's the thing. That's where I don't want to sound too confident in the direct correlation between the Milano missing on that play in particular. But those are just the types of plays that have been turning into chunks since he went out. And I need that above all else. I know Daquan Jones disrupts so much in the middle of the line, and maybe we get more splash plays, more pressure on the quarterback. When you have that interior disruptor that Jones is and Oliver is as well. But man, what's happening right now at the second level with not just the missed tackles, but the coverages too. I think you're gonna, eventually we'll get around to Taron Johnson's game. You brought that up very, very early in our little chat about it before we came on. And I think Milano matters a lot in those lanes that, that Taron Johnson looks very good in when he's got the support of his backers at that level as well. And I think just a ripple effect with Milano in that defense, I think, is the one that that's going to matter most. I mean, look, man, I mean, he's an all-pro, a deserved all-pro, not
Sure.
like a fucking, I mean, maybe it kind of came out of nowhere because there was no ramp up to it, like never even like a Pro Bowl, and then all of a sudden, boom, all-pro. But I think it's just a case where people started to realize how good of a football player he was, man. And I think we knew that. It's enormous. Who didn't say Matt Milano going into the season right at the top of guys we couldn't afford to lose?
Sure. By the way, people, if you see some comments coming up, some people are following along on YouTube, not really getting into them, but I am throwing them up there as they come in as good as I can. Anyway, look, this is a weird discussion to have because this is the first time all season where you can look at the defense and say it's on you today. Now it's also on the offense, and we'll get into that. The first half yet again for a third straight week, just abysmal in the first half. This was a bad defensive effort. I would have agreed with you about Matt Milano. I personally right now feel like DaQuan Jones' stat loss is the biggest. First of all, he was playing at an all-pro level before he got hurt a month into the season. I don't know. And Ed Oliver being out today really hurt them.
Yeah,
too.
and that's where
That's why I'm
I
like,
think
right.
that's where I'm going to just take a step back on the Jones injury. It was definitely magnified today without Oliver being there. What we learned most definitely is that Phillips and Settle are they're rotation guys, they're role guys, man. They cannot log the snaps.
Nope.
They lack certain skill sets and each of there's just a lot of weaknesses there that get attacked and magnified when it's not just a snap share, when they've got to really hold it down. They can't hold it down. Maybe they can hold it down with Oliver in there. Maybe they can
Sure.
Go 2-3. But not 1-2, not 1-2, man. You're fucked in the middle of that defensive line if you have to go with Phillips and Settle for any extended period of time.
Yeah, maybe Ed Oliver, if he's out there, they don't feel the loss of DaQuan quite as much. But today, without either of them, I mean, holy shit.
Huge.
Boona Ford was horrible.
I didn't even, you know what? I saw he's 98, isn't he?
Yeah.
I fucking saw him like one or two plays, and I was just like, who's 98? Like Poona Ford has completely left the building as far as I'm concerned. I don't even know what the Poona Ford conversation is. All right. Yeah. They hated him from the jump. My man sat there at 5 on the depth chart from the jump. Dummies like me and you made up excuses as to why that might be. Like, he's just DaQuan Jones insurance. Nah, they didn't like Poona Ford from the get-go, and we certainly see why.
We're calling ourselves out here a little bit. I talked about how wrong I was with the depth or with in the trenches and how bad they looked today after the Miami game. And I thought you were right at the time. You said Brandon Beane deserved a game ball because of the roster he's built. The depth that is on this team. Well, now this
like 2 months ago.
It does, but the depth is getting tested now, and it failed miserably against a very bad Patriots team. And it's not just Poona Ford at defensive tackle. Where's Tim Settle? I mean, this guy was supposed to be a good pickup from Washington, and the only thing he was missing was opportunity. Well, he's 2 years in now, or a year and a half in. I'm seeing very little from him. Vickers, I can't remember the guy's first name, disrespect to him, but he got some snaps today, did nothing. And then Jordan Phillips, the guy's good at like penetrating. The guy must have the worst PFF tackle grade in the history of statistics. This guy whiffs 2 to 3 tackles a game, and that screen on that last drive was one of the biggest plays of the game. It was a 30-yard gain. It could have been stuffed right at the line, and who knows how things play out. But yeah, that's what stuck out to me more than anything else today is the play of the defensive tackle position and the linebacker position was just it was anemic today. And I've liked Terrell Bernard this season. I've been an apologist for him because I said, I thought he was going to suck and that he didn't belong as starter, but he's kind of proven himself. Got beat a lot today in pass coverage. Yeah, it's just, I don't know, man. It's all just a bad game. bad game at the worst time. And this team they're in trouble, man. I don't think it's, I always say I'm a knee-jerk reactor. I overreact. I don't think I'm overreacting right now. This is a football team in peril right now. This is a football team in a lot of trouble. A lot of trouble.
Yeah, man. I'm interested to see, what people say over the next 48 hours. I think, your sentiment will be echoed more than it's been, the last week or so. You took some hits, maybe even on behalf of both of us and some of our negative energy coming off of
Sure.
recent games. But, at this point, I don't know how you could, see them as anything but, a team in a lot of trouble. This is the first time this year where I'm going to make it a point to go look and see what the other records in the AFC are. I mean, maybe that just speaks to the fact that I'm not as big of a all-around NFL fan, but at the same time, I did not worry about making the playoffs until today's loss. With today's loss, I am now to the point where I'm no longer saying, that the Super Bowl is out of play this year. I'm now worried that even just getting into the tournament is in jeopardy. And I think that's pretty fair to say, man. I mean, you mentioned a couple other teams' records as we flipped around some games, before we came on. And it seems pretty legit. And I think part of it is most people know that things get harder on the Bills in the second half of the season. So, is this a 10-win football team right now? And does 10 even get it done? Those are questions that are fair to now be answered, because I'll tell you this much. All right, I'll probably predict, if not that anyone gave a shit, a win for Thursday night, but I will rustle up as much as I can without it being discovered. Okay. And my hope is that I can make my largest, not only football, okay, but my largest sports bet of all time in 2 weeks, because the fucking Bengals will curb stomp us. The Bengals are winning that game by 3 touchdowns. Period. There is no the Bengals, they got their bullshit out of the way. Okay. This team is going to find their groove. They're going to find it against us. They're going to take that leap that everybody thought was there and then, wondered about through the first month of the season. And I don't care, what happens against Tampa Bay, win, lose, or draw. I am certain of this. And I will put my money where my mouth is, in tears.
Well, I'm going to quit this.
In tears on the game itself, on the spread, and then to get some plus money on laying like 14 or something like that off on the Bills. We're going to get the piss beat out of us in 2 weeks because we ain't going to fix what's wrong by then. Does that mean we're not a playoff team? No. Does that mean I'm saying the season's over? We might not be able to enjoy like one January football game? I'm not saying that, but I am saying this. The Cincinnati Bengals are going to beat the shit out of us in 2 weeks. We ain't going to be fixed by then. All we can hope to be at the end of that night is 5-4.
It's hard to put up an argument when you watch how this team has looked against the Giants and the Patriots, 2 really bad football teams over these past 2 weeks. I'm still not there. I wasn't there when you said it at first, and I'm still not there where I say that their chance of winning a Super Bowl is gone.
Jesus. Are you kidding me? This team there are holes everywhere. And one of the ones that we didn't even know existed, all of a sudden, Von Miller, I'm not even sure he's going to contribute on a fucking football field again in his life. All right. He's 35 years old. He's coming off a major injury. Okay. Age was one of the warts that I'm referring to, people pointing out. All right, when they bet against the Bills during the offseason, and we all ran and said, they're just looking for clicks. They're just looking for clicks. Nobody thinks our Bills could suck. Nobody. They suck. And Von Miller ain't helping matters.
He's not.
Von Miller ain't helping matters.
That's actually among my notes too that we're gonna discuss. He just 3 weeks in now. I get the first game, the jitters and all that, but 3 weeks in and he's giving them absolutely nothing. It almost looks like he's playing to not get hurt out there. Like the way he's rushing the quarterbacks, is trying to run straight back into the quarterback. There's no bend in his pass rush or anything like that. I will say this. You could take, if anyone still has the Bills, like, you do tiers each week. I know Joe DiBiase does it on his Twitter. Lots of people have different tiers. Anyone who has the Bills in the same tier as the Chiefs, take them out because they're not in the same class right now as the Kansas City Chiefs. They're just not. Miami too. And I know we beat Miami 2 weeks ago, but I think Miami's a way better football team right now as things stand. I feel like the Bills should belong in the same tier as like Pittsburgh and Baltimore. Maybe Baltimore's even in a higher tier right now, but like the Chargers, the Browns, teams that could make the playoffs but are not locks. And I kind of feel like that's where the Bills belong right now. The Bills do not belong in the same tier as the Kansas City Chiefs or the Bengals for that matter. I'm confident in saying that. I do think they can get things fixed, though. I do. I've said it 2 weeks ago. Brandon Beane's got to make trades.
I think we owe this guy. I think we owe this guy.
Who?
Well, this guy right there. I don't know that he wants to, wants his name,
there?
Put out there. Yeah, that guy.
Oh,
I think we owe him the service of pointing out that we're way too far into this to have not talked about the offense. I hear you. We went from defense to
because the defense
fucking hide it. I got to be able to see it. My man says, Christopher Michael, I have to disagree. In the last 3 games, they scored 10 points in the first half, and the offense is completely healthy. The defense is getting zero help. In fairness to my mans, all right, we opened up with like, where does it run again? Where does it run? How far into this are we?
We're about 22 minutes in.
All right, well, we're on about 17 of those minutes on the defense and then moved off to the big picture. The offense fucking sucks too, all right? Christopher Michael, this one's for you, baby. The fucking offense sucks too.
A lot of specific miscues in this game too. Josh's first pass of the game, just an awful read, throw, and interception. Also in that third quarter, and this was a big play in the game, Stephon Diggs got behind 2 defenders, and Josh just straight up overthrew him. And it wasn't a forced, hurried pass. He stepped into it, and he overthrew him.
3 to 5 really bad misses today. 3 to 5 really bad misses today.
That's a 75-yard touchdown to Stephon Diggs if it's a decent throw, because he had a good step and a half on him. Dawson Knox drop on 4th down. I'm done with Dawson Knox. I'm done with him. Every fucking week, you and I are talking about something related to a Dawson Knox drop. That was a 4th down drop. It was huge. This guy has hurt the Bills bad this year. He is a straight up liability. Dalton Kincaid's got to get those 1 tight end, 3 receiver reps going forward. It's got.
There aren't any. That's the thing.
It's got.
They're not committed to any 1 tight end, 3 receiver sets. I mean.
I would even put Quinn. If they're going to go 12 personnel, give me Quinn and Morris. He's a better blocker. I said that.
I know you did say that, so I respect the fact that you're doubling down on it. But no, all right, I'm not looking for Quentin Morris to get Dawson Knox's reps.
Why not? He's proven to be a liability. These are big drops, man. Big drops that cost them points. That 4th down drop.
It's just not going to happen. Maybe not to the extent that
then it's bad coaching to me.
Dawson Knox is going to see the reps ahead of Quentin Morris. It's not even in the conversation.
Does he deserve to?
How good is Quentin Morris? All right, we've watched Dawson Knox do some shit. He's had a bad first half of the season. He's had a very bad first half of the season, and I think Dawson Knox is also struggling with the move to to a 2 tight end offense. I don't know how much
struggling
time, how much
football.
I get it. Yeah, the drops are big. The drops have been there. The drops
every week we talk about this because it happens every week.
They're not necessarily balls that hit him between the 8s, but I agree. I agree. He's been bad. I just, I got to step in when you go to talk about Quentin Morris taking his reps. No. All right, man. If you want to give if you want to find a way to get a third receiver on the field and go with more of that personnel to where it's only one tight end and that tight end's Kincaid, yes, okay, I'll have the conversation all day. I'm not going to have the Quentin Morris conversation.
I just feel like there's no accountability right now with Dawson Knox. And I know that's Josh's boy, and I get he's a hard worker. I like Dawson Knox as a person, and he has been good in the past, but he just doesn't have it this year, man. Doesn't have it this year.
Rough first half.
Anyway, so you got the bad Josh throws. You got Dawson Knox dropping a fourth down pass. Taron Johnson, who I think has been outstanding for the Buffalo Bills for years now. Great player. I tweeted this. Great player. Terrible afternoon. He was bad, man. He had a comedian Mo Brown says Taron Johnson has to go. All right, he doesn't have to go anywhere. But anyway, whatever. Fans are entitled to their opinion. He played bad today. He gave up the winning touchdown pass, which whatever. That's just one play. But he also had a big penalty on third down. He got called for defensive holding twice today. But anyway, he had a bad third down penalty. It wiped out what would have been a strip sack fumble for Leonard Floyd that knocked the Patriots out of field goal position. And they went out and they scored a touchdown. So that single-handedly cost them 6 points. I know we're back on the defense here when you want to talk about the offense.
No,
I get it.
I mean, we know
but
the deal.
It was a really bad day for Johnson. I thought he was terrible today. I brought up Jordan Phillips too.
I really think Johnson. I really think Johnson's play is a product of the underneath support that he would get from two premier linebackers over the first part of his career. I don't think anyone's ever really seen Johnson as a world beater in coverage. I think we love the way he can blow up screens. We love the way he's a sure tackler on the edges and things like that. But he's always just been okay in coverage. And when he doesn't have the lanes in front of him protected, the way that Milano and Edmonds, I'm not ready to put Bernard there yet because Bernard's starting to look a little ordinary without Milano. Johnson, it's part of the ripple effect with Milano as far as I'm concerned.
Before we get into the offense specifically, I actually want to give some credit to the Patriots. As bad as they've been this year, I thought Bill Belichick coached a great game today.
No, I won't hear it.
He did.
I won't hear it.
They did a good job.
Nope. All over my Twitter feed this week, all I heard was what a fraud Bill Belichick was, because a fan base of one of the worst fucking professional teams in history to never win shit thinks they know who's good and who's bad. And the guy with 6 rings, he sucks.
Well, he didn't suck today. Yeah, I thought he coached a great game, man. Defense, they played smart. They pressured Josh Allen. They found ways to get after him, not necessarily with sacks, but just pressure. And then on the offensively, man, I mean, they took away any Bills pass rush, quick throws. They ran the ball effectively.
They were ready.
Yeah,
they were ready, man. I mean, what was the open? Oh, well, you weren't awake. You were just sleeping one off. The first big story that hit this morning, all right, was I think Pelissaro saying that a somewhat low-key massive extension was signed by Belichick in the offseason. And did we go after it? Oh, did we have a blast with that news? All right. You think Bill Belichick doesn't know that, that buzz is out there, and it's beyond Buffalo, even though, I popped a little shit to the people that, that glommed all over it this week. But, beyond just our market, Bill Belichick knows that that's starting to be said, and I think he was very, very prepared and had his football team very, very prepared today. They were well coached today. They were well schemed, well coached. He knew. I don't give a shit, that Dorian Williams played every snap last week or whatever. He looked at film and said, "I'm going right after this kid."
And he did. They did too.
I'm going right.
I'm
going right after this kid.
They did. They got benched.
He's always going to. You can rest assured that you'll know what your weaknesses are after you play Bill Belichick, because he will attack them.
Yeah. So Larry said, how disappointed are you with the Von Miller return effect? I mean, we kind of hit on that already.
I ain't even blaming Von for it, man. I mean, I ain't blaming Von, but 35's 35. I don't care how well he has kept his body in shape. 35 is 35, man. And age in some spots was part of why people felt there was the potential for this window to start to close. And we're seeing it at safety. All right. We're definitely seeing it as safety, despite a hell of a play by Poyer today. You know, he might be one of the guys where I would say, you know, just the pounding is starting to wear on a little bit. And that's because that's how he's played football the last 5 years.
Yeah, he's very physical,
absolutely, man. I ain't taking nothing away from the guy other than his wife being an insurrectionist. But the age is showing. All right. And it's just not impossible to look at things right now and say Von Miller's never going to be Von Miller again.
I noticed on the final Patriots drive too, when the New England had to throw the ball, at least early on, it was Floyd and Rizzo out there and not Von Miller. He's not the same. And I don't know if he will be again, but he's definitely not right now. And you could just tell the way he's rushing the quarterback. It just, you know, it felt like last week I saw little glimpses, like he was starting to get that timing down. He was getting off the ball quick. But you just don't see any bend in his pass rush. Last thing about the defense, because we got to talk offense here, because that's very much a reason why they're 4-3 now instead of 5-2, because they sleepwalk through first halves. But the tackling, that's not, you know, it's so easy to blame coaches and McDermott and Dorsey for everything, but isn't like tackling a player thing?
But that's when you
terrible at tackling.
That's when I know it's not necessarily all, you know, the linebacker, the defensive tackle, and the cornerback replacement for the 3 studs that we lost. I know not every missed tackle is you know, directly attributed to those 3 positions, but missed tackling is what you have when you are an undermanned defense. Missed tackling is what you have when you ain't that fucking good. It's like the baseball team that keeps saying, it was just that one inning. It just got away from us in that one inning. Well, you know what? Because that one inning happens to bad baseball teams. And that is what's happening, or what happened today, certainly. Maybe we didn't see it last week, but the Giants are anemic. Like, just anemic.
So are the Patriots.
I understand. I'm just saying we happened not to see it last week. This is what happens, all right, when you start to put in below replacement level players. And the Bills today, mainly because of the Oliver injury, I still think, you know, I'm with you on Jones, but if I get Oliver back, all right, I can find a way.
It makes a difference.
I can find a way to shuffle Settle and Phillips around to where I'm not getting killed.
Right. I agree with that. Having both of them out there,
but nothing's ever going to replace Milano. And it's not just that you lost him as a player. They were scared to death to put Dorian Williams on the field, and now we see why. And last week, the guy that they're scared to death to put on the field, last week, his replacement only got 5 snaps. We're a fucking mess at that spot right now. I mean, that linebacker spot's a mess. You saw them going with Rapp today, you know, in that last drive. They would pull Dotson out, didn't have the trust to put Williams in, so they went to a dime, which you could count probably the number of times they played the dime on 1 or 2 hands through the first 6 weeks. It's an enormous hole in the middle of that defense, and it affects everything.
And it's a credit again to Bill Belichick and Bill O'Brien for the play calls today.
It's a credit to Matt Milano.
Yeah, it is.
He is so good.
He is. Well, like even the play calls today, and you see it was pretty obvious. It was frustrating to watch, but it was really smart by New England. Get the ball quick, get it out in open space, and Bill's guys are going to miss tackles. I mean, the biggest plays that New England had today were pretty much missed tackles. Like I said, Phillips whiffing led to a 30-yard screen pass that put him in position to win the game. Dane Jackson had a huge missed tackle on an end around.
He was left out in space against a superior athlete.
Yeah,
he was left out, and that play was designed, all right, for that guy to have to beat one man, and with the exception of maybe just a couple corners in this league, he's beaten most of them. I don't give a shit. I'm not here to defend Dane Jackson. I just remember the play, and I think that play was more of a Patriots. I think that play was more of a schematic win for the Patriots than a Dane Jackson Bills are undermanned, loss on the play.
When the Bills took the lead near the end of the game,
I thought it was over.
I did too. I was concerned about I was concerned about the field goal. I never, in my wildest dreams, that I think New England was going to take the ball and go fucking 75 yards to win the game. Again, credit to them, and it just put the Bills in a lot of trouble. Let's take a real quick break and come back, and we got to dive into this offense. Some Sabres talk too coming up in just a minute. All right, I'm back here with Tone Pucks. Yeah, this Bills offense, man, 3 straight weeks now. They've looked like they've sleepwalking through the first half. I think they've got 10 points combined, just 1 touchdown in the first 3 halves, or in the first half of the last 3 games. What do you attribute that most to? Is it execution? Is it coaching? I'm at a loss right now. I don't even know. I don't know what to think.
It looks like on the scroll there, people started stop saying shit. No one's talking anymore. Did a better live stream just start or something? Where'd everybody go?
Who knows?
God damn it. I enjoyed that. Oh man. It's Dorsey. It starts there, but hold on. I wanted to get here with, to get to this point with, with some wit and some thought, but it's not going to work out because I'm distracted. So I'll just go right to it. I think Sean McDermott wears some of the offensive failures.
Elaborate.
I think I'm not saying that we targeted Kincaid per se. All right. I'm not saying that McDermott necessarily had an agenda to go to the 12 personnel and Kincaid was the target. But I do think McDermott has always wanted to rein in the offense a little bit, to have the ability to move sticks, chew yards with the run game. I think, he felt like his offenses were too one-dimensional, and that's not strictly run versus pass per se, but just one-dimensional in the fact that if they're not really flowing by getting the ball downfield, they're in trouble when they have to take those 6 to 8 yards and move the chains. And I think he wanted to see he talks about complementary football all the time. All right. And I think what complementary football is to him is, a team that chews up a lot of clock and just, they don't have 3-play drives like we saw in the Dayball era when we'd be on Monday night and someone might get within 10 points of us and Dayball's just like, fucking 10's too close. I'm going to go make it 17 in the next 3 plays. Right. I think that was the school of Dayball, man. And I think the school of McDermott is I'm up 10. All right, I'm gonna get this into the fourth quarter up 10. I'm gonna take the air out of the football a little bit. I just think a lot of the offensive strategy, the mindset, is a product of McDermott's oversight of the whole piece. And the other thing I'll add to this, and I think this, the other what I just went into, obviously I can't prove, but this part of it, I think. I can't imagine not agreeing with it. I think we all believe, despite the fact that, Brandon Beane's the general manager of this football team and under traditional org charts, he trumps the coach. I think we all believe that the true decision maker at One Bill Drive, the boss, man, the boss is Sean McDermott. Okay. The fact that we have decided for the long-term benefit to take the football out of Josh's hands in the running game.
Yes.
Okay. That is one man and one man's only decision. That was Sean McDermott's decision. Nobody else. You could argue Pagula, but I don't think he'd say it in a million years. All right. Nobody else makes the decision to stop running Josh Allen other than Sean McDermott. So if you believe that, maybe everything I said up until this point, you didn't give a fuck about. But if you believe that this offense is less effective now because they have made it their mission not to bang their quarterback up, well, then that proves my point. Sean McDermott's prints are all over that because nobody else in this organization makes that decision but him.
Yeah, look, and I mean, it is so obvious that he is looking to not run the football now. And to me, that's taken away something that sets him apart from so many other quarterbacks. Would you ask Lamar Jackson to not run the football? And they're two different types of runners, whereas, Josh is more physical, Lamar is more athletic. But what would the Baltimore Ravens offense look like if Lamar Jackson refused to run the football? Because it's getting to a point now where it almost feels like Josh Allen is refusing to run the football. He should be running the football early too in the games. I mean, it feels like the Bills are very easy to defend right now.
There's no way he's doing that on his own. There's just no way. Would you say that there's a reasonable chance that some of his decisions against running the football are his own?
No, I agree with you there. I definitely think it's Sean McDermott who's telling him, I don't want you running the football. If you go down, the season's over. I get it to an extent. But look at this offense. It needs his legs. The playbook just feels so much more limited this year.
One of the reasons why Cooks looked fine, and his usage versus
he was good today.
Versus, I think really the argument there isn't necessarily his carries, but why the fuck is Latavius Murray all over our television screen? Look, I get it. Fun little preseason. He was a nice piece to have. All right. But he's running the fucking rub routes. He's running the rub routes. Are you kidding me?
I get that. I think part of the reason why he's getting so much burn is because James Cook, and I saw it a couple times today too, he's just a terrible pass blocker. So I mean,
but I get that. But Murray lines up in,
I know what you're saying there. Yeah.
On the, in those slots and wide. And like, I've seen that before with this offense. Like, I've seen Reggie Gilliam line up there. So it's not out of the ordinary for them to just put a guy in the, in the rotation there just to kind of pull some defender away from where they really want to go. But man, oh man, that just screams to me that they're lost. They're lost. Who would have thought when Latavius Murray was signed that he would be getting slot reps, in empties?
Yeah,
fucking receiver reps in empties. It's ridiculous. But I forgot where we started, but I did remember just now. I think one of the things we were excited about with James Cook is what he could do if there were some RPOs with him. You know what I mean? Some of those plays where, well, you see a little, sometimes Josh might, leave it in there a little bit, and maybe those are RPOs, but Josh isn't pulling the ball out, and he sure shit ain't threatening the edges to run it anymore like he did. And we're just finding out that was a huge part of what people had to game for. People had to game plan for that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, my God, the guys on the cover of the most popular video game out there right now running somebody over, like Patrick McQueen got like pissed, or Patrick Queen, not McQueen, got pissed because of all the highlights. That's why Josh, that's who he was. Yeah. And they just took it away. And that's totally bitten from someone who talked about it on GR, maybe DiBiase in the morning. Not my thing by any stretch of the imagination, but how can you, after hearing it, how can you not look at it like, holy shit, what an element to this offense that's missing?
London, I will, to a certain extent, say they weren't ready to play the game. Overseas travel, you can say they came in late. They're flat. Giants game, it felt like, we talked about this, Josh was literally forcing the ball into Diggs in the first half with no success. Today, I don't know, the common theme to me is all three of these games, they haven't been able to get the running game early, which kind of goes to your point, and that includes Josh Allen. Like, there has not been a design play call run for Josh Allen. I can't remember the last time there's been one. And another big thing today, and I see in a comment, I want to put it up there because I heard this a lot on Twitter. Somebody, Bill says, wide receiver 2 is a problem. What successful offense doesn't have a capable wide receiver 2? Gabe Davis, 1 catch, 6 yards today, 5 targets, no drops. So, I mean, they were not catchable balls, the ones he didn't come down with. I don't want to defend Gabe Davis here, but, last week we talked about there's just too much Stephon Diggs, and you want to get James Cook going, and they did. He had 3 catches. He scored a touchdown. Dalton Kincaid far and away had his best game as a pro today. He had 8 catches, I think. Where's the numbers? Yeah, 8 catches for 75 yards today. So Dalton Kincaid was a big factor in the offense. Khalil Shakir had a couple catches. Sherfield had a grab. Hardy had a really nice catch and a couple good moves to pick up a first down on a 3rd down play where he would have been stopped. So you get these other guys involved. There's only one football. And somebody's going to suffer. And for the Bills and the way this offense is looking, you're looking at me like, it's Gabe Davis. It's Gabe Davis. Gabe Davis
completely unrelated to your point.
I just don't think Gabe Davis, I don't think he had a bad game today. It just wasn't a focal part of the offense. I don't know. How do you feel about that when you hear somebody say, well, they don't have a legitimate number 2 receiver? I personally don't even know that matters. I care more about getting Cook and Kincaid and some of these other guys involved, and whatever Gabe gets, he gets.
I'm fine with the argument. I mean, you won't find me jumping on anybody, who makes the argument that, that the Bills are a little shorthanded there. But I also don't think about it strictly in terms of wide receiver 2, much the way, you would in years past, because there are so many other, guys now, you don't see, there's so many more packages now than there was before. That you could have a tight end who's your number 1 or number 2 pass catcher on a team, and then wide receiver 2 is actually passing game option number 3. And I'm just not sure how direct a causation of Gabe Davis not getting the ball is to the Bills' lack of success. I don't pin a lot of it on Gabe. Now, I think that the stats may bear otherwise. It could. I'm sure there's something out there where someone could say when Gabe Davis catches 4 or 5 balls for X amount of yards, the Bills are 172-8. Well, all right, sorry, but I don't put a lot of stake in in Gabe Davis's performance, necessarily meaning that the offense is humming. Maybe that's wrong. That's probably is, because now we don't fucking run the ball with Josh anymore. Now we don't have someone in the middle of the field who can do what Cole Beasley did. Cole Beasley was every bit wide receiver 2 for this team for a couple years.
Sure,
as far as I'm concerned. Maybe I should be looking at Gabe more than I am. But right now, my thought process with Gabe is he's just one of the guys. He's just one of the other guys, and game plan is going to dictate which one of those guys is the guy for that day. But none of them are doing it. Some say this was a show of Kincaid, starting to take a step today, because when Steph was doubled and they took away Steph, Kincaid found the openings. Maybe, maybe. But what I really need is 1 or 2 guys, all right, outside of my primary skill players to contribute. And usually their contributions are schemed. And that's why, for me, so much of this is on Dorsey. No, it's just who wants to have this conversation for the 100th time?
I know.
I mean, we're just we're
getting redundant.
Fuck the conversation, but it's very real. I mean, they open up the game with a single read play that Josh gets picked off on. You got all fucking week to work on that play.
Yeah.
And then you come out in the second half and you're like, this is what we're going to do. We're going to throw the 2-yard loss to Steph. I mean, I'm sorry. I know that's cherry picking. That's low hanging fruit, but you opened up the game with a pick, and then then your adjustment was to open up the half with a 2-yard loss. I think Dorsey is a horrendous play caller, schemer, all of it. He probably won't get fired because I think McDermott is worried a little bit about the image that he's starting to get. All right, everybody knows that he let that the Frazier thing was not voluntary. Everybody saw. I don't think he wanted it to, but everybody saw the Daboll blow off.
Yeah, right, we taped the show before we saw that last
Sean
week.
McDermott, I think, is rightfully starting probably to feel a little bit like he might not play well with others.
Yeah.
And I don't think he's out to fire his offensive coordinator. I think he's gonna sink or swim with him. But I don't think the Bills would be worse off for it. I don't think it's a ridiculous conversation, especially when you got a former head coach. I don't know what Brady's OC history was prior to becoming a head coach, but it was good enough to get him to become a head coach, even if he was a terrible head coach. All right. And I just don't think it's an impossible thing to ponder. It's just, it wouldn't be a betting favorite right now.
Also worth mentioning, Chad Hall, the wide receivers coach, took a lateral move to Jacksonville last year, and it was pretty well known that him and Sean didn't see eye to eye with a lot of things. Look, it is redundant, but it is something that needs to be pointed out that Dorsey is doing a terrible job in the first half. The offensive line was terrible, especially in the first half today. That needs to be called out. And yes, I think Sean McDermott is responsible for Josh Allen not running the football. But Josh Allen deserves some blame here.
Sure.
He did not play very well today.
Big misses.
Especially in the first half. He was 9 of 16 with an interception in the first half. Did not play well. He had some throws, and they weren't all scrambling and throwing it away, trying to make something out of nothing type plays. The bomb to Diggs, that was a touchdown. He had other misses too. They were just kind of wild throws.
It wasn't right after the bomb. Like a play or two after the bomb, he had a miss so bad to a wide open Diggs that the guys doing the game thought it may have been intended for Gabe. I don't know if you remember. It was a really, really bad miss. And then he had the one on his little soccer act there where he was able to buy the 15. Fucking Kincaid was wide open, and he missed him high and outside on it. Yeah, no, the quarterback has not been very good since Miami.
Yeah, it was definitely not a good game for him today. The stats looked fine: 27 to 41, 265, 2 touchdowns, a pick, a rushing touchdown from a half yard out. I did see one stat from Next Generation Stats that really stood out to me. 17 of 17 for 135 in both his touchdowns. We get rid of the ball within 2.5 seconds or less. Like the Bills, that's like their rhythm offense. It seems to be working. He was only 10 of 24 for 130 yards and an interception when holding on to the ball for more than 2.5 seconds. But yeah, I'm not saying big picture wise, Josh Allen's part of the problem, but in this specific loss, at least today, I definitely thought he was part of the problem. And 9 penalties too, untimely penalties too. They really hurt this team. That's undisciplined, and it kind of goes back to coaching as well. So,
what about, I don't know, did you know that I was trying to remember who it was the first time around, but did you know that on Friday, McDermott declared Oliver out on his GR show, and then Oliver ended up showing up at practice on that day?
Yeah.
That happened earlier in the year too.
Well, Micah
Hyde, that's right. That's odd for McDermott. I know. And I'll even look, I'm not conspiracy theorist guy, but I'm not even playing when I say that it wouldn't shock me if McDermott forced the issue a little bit with Oliver to sit today because of the fact that he didn't want to look like a jerk naming somebody out twice on a Friday radio show, and then they both played. I know that's a reach, but how many fucking times do you practice on a Friday if you know you're not going on Sunday? Yeah. How many times does that happen? Like, what was that Oliver doing out there that Sean McDermott didn't think that he was going to play at all. That was weird. There are weird things happening to this coach this year. He seems a little more disconnected. And, for McDermott, that's different. You don't see that sort of disconnect with his football team in years past. Once you start to get above, the football on field ops, that's actually very common because, we haven't even dived into the fact that this fucking stupid team is rudderless because their top two, managers on each team was banging. All right. That is, my God, that story just went away. It is just such a product of idiot leadership at the top. But thankfully, that idiocy doesn't filter down into the football operations. McDermott's been tight. Bean's been tight. And this year, the things that have happened to McDermott with, public comments about a player playing or not playing and then playing have been odd. McDermott has had as rough a start to the season as any of his players.
Yeah. I really don't have much.
Was I not allowed? It's not like you've got credentials to any of these teams. Like, I should be able to just blow Pagula up if I want, right? Well, like it's just baffling that my man could put his football franchise in the hands of someone that he didn't know was sleeping with a subordinate a month later. It is baffling.
I don't want credentials. And this is why, because I like being able to talk openly and I feel objectively about the team without fair repercussion from the organization. So even if we could get credentials, I actually wouldn't want them because then we'd have to be different. Bright spots, Dalton Kincaid, James Cook. I thought they got him going. He didn't know. What was it? Giants game, didn't he? Or was it 2 weeks ago? He had -1 yard total yards. It was 2 weeks ago against Jacksonville. Jordan Poyer, like I said, he had a sack. He had a big forced fumble. Had they won that game, I was even ready to tweet after the game, had the Bills come back to win, that Jordan Poyer might have just saved the Bills season with that punch-out fumble, because then the Bills get the ball and they take the lead. If they win the game, because I've been kind of critical of Jordan this season, hasn't been tested much. It's not that he's looked terrible, but I agree about the age thing. But I was waiting for him to make a play, and he did.
He made huge play. Huge play.
And then the other bright spot is I think we realize how much you need Ed Oliver out there. He was a bright spot. Just his presence not being on the field showed you, how bad this team defensively could be without him and the injuries. To put a wrap on it, they got to find a way to play with a sense of urgency on offense in the first half. It's crazy to see them not being able to get going. It's frustrating as shit. The penalties are a problem. And to me, maybe the biggest factor of this game is I just think they were bullied on both sides of the line. I mean, there were a couple of runs Stevenson had. He was going 8-9 yards without being touched. Just bad defense and the offensive line. I thought they were terrible today. Maybe their worst game in the season. And I still have a tough time believing that they lost as both Zach Wilson and Mac Jones. Mac Jones played good, by the way. He played really good. He played smart today.
He threw some balls. He threw some balls in the first half that were just like terrible. Thankfully for him, they weren't in the direction of any Bills defenders, but he had some misses in the first half where I was just like, how the hell are we losing to Mac Jones? But I agree with with the overall sentiment on his game, because I think his second half was really strong.
Yeah.
And yeah, man. I mean, it did take some good plays, some good schemes, they had an opponent that was very ready for today. And I don't know that I would say that about last week's opponent. Last week's opponent, I think, were as flat as they were,
playing down to the competition.
But this week's opponent, I think, was very ready
and well coached.
That whole thing people say, well, it was their Super Bowl. Well, no, all right, it was just an important game to them, and they showed up for it. Pats showed up today. The Pats showed up today.
the offense in the fourth quarter gets going, and it just, I don't know. It's obviously fun in the moment to watch, but it just makes you more frustrated that they spent an entire half of a game yet again not being able to get it going.
It got going. Didn't it get going though because they had to go off script? Not off script within plays. All right.
Sure.
Not like Josh Allen going off script. Excuse me. Because a play is designed to do something. I mean off script from the game plan. Right. All right. When they got down 2 scores, when it was 22-10 with 8 minutes to go, there was nothing cute. We had to go, right? We had to go. And that's the best offense they played all day. The best offense they played all day is the offense that Ken Dorsey didn't have, all right, on his game plan sheet.
Yeah.
I think if that doesn't speak to what the biggest part of the problem is, I don't know what does, man. The best the offense looked all day is when Ken Dorsey had to put away the game plan and pretty much just go out there and sling it. And that's the best the offense looked
I
all
will
day.
say that if there's any hope I could take from this game as a Bills fan, if there's any, and I'm really skeptical of this, but the offense is capable of putting up big numbers consistently. They're capable of it. And if they could find a way to play like they did in the fourth quarter offensively for 4 quarters, they're still going to be a team that could beat anybody because they have the talent on offense and a great quarterback if they take the handcuffs off and if he plays smarter and better too, because some of it is on him as well. But that's what gives this the one thing. I have no hope for the defense. They're not replacing Milano. They're not replacing DaQuan Jones. They're not replacing Trey White. They're going to give up points. They're going to give up yards. If you can hold a team to, what did New England score, 29 today? That's not good. But if you
there are cover linebackers out there that could be had for a 3 or 4. I don't know who they are. All right. I don't know.
They got to do something.
Ryan Talbot will have a list, I'm sure. All right. And I don't mean that as a dog because those are cool. Like if I want to know who might, get traded for or something, then I like that shit. But there are a handful of cover linebackers out there that can be had. And if there's a saving grace from today and they truly don't trust Williams to get it fixed, during the course of the 2023 season, because it ain't Dotson.
No.
Dotson ain't covering nobody.
No.
All right. Then maybe, they've got enough time to find that cover linebacker.
They have to do something on defense. Again, even if you're just limiting the success of who you're playing somewhat, you can hold a team to 20 to 24 points. This Bills offense should be good enough that they could still beat anyone. In theory, that's the hope you could take away from the Buffalo Bills here. Todd Sheldon. Hopefully the Bills don't play the Chiefs. The NFL will make sure Taylor Swift's team will win. I'll tell you what, I don't think they need Taylor Swift.
You have an awful lot of conspiracy theorist takes.
Including yours.
What? Which one? Which one?
Well, some McDermott.
Oh, I just said that McDermott, may have he may have kept Ed Oliver out, because he said that he was going to be out. Yeah, and Ed Oliver went out and practiced on Friday. There's not a player, unless a player's rehabbing from injury, okay, they do not practice on a Friday for a game on Sunday. Ed Oliver thought he was going to play. Ed Oliver thought he was going to play, man. Otherwise, you don't go out on the field on Friday.
Anyway, I'm watching the Chiefs plenty this year. I mean, with the success that Mac Jones and some of these other lesser quarterbacks are having, it's scary to think what Mahomes and Travis Kelce will do in this defense as things stand right now. Goes without saying, by the way, Thursday, this is a must. Suddenly, this becomes a must-win game. You cannot lose at home on a short week to Tampa. You can't do it. Are they on a bye right now?
No, they lost today to Atlanta.
Okay.
Ugly ass game.
Tell you how sung over all day, man. I'm telling you, I can barely lock in on this Bills game. I just, oh my God, I wanted to go to bed.
So bad. Can I say, Joe, big shout out here. Sherry took the kids to like the Y today just for like, for me to have the day. I've never been more dialed into what was going on. I had the freedom. I was to not have kids jumping around while I'm trying to watch a game was delightful. So, she's out there, like, listen, sometimes she comes home on like a Thursday or something. She's like, I listened to the podcast. And I'm like, fuck. I'm like, what did I say? My God, I hope I didn't say I was going to put 1,500 on the Bengals, because that's what I'm saying right now. In 2 weeks, baby. I'm gonna go to Florida with my kids' college baseball team on that Cincy bet. That's how positive I am of it.
By the way, I'm going to give you some props because you go on Facebook and call your son out for being a mediocre hitter. I wish I had the Facebook status actually word for word. It was fucking
I
funny.
call him a career 189.
I've always
89 hitter.
I have always said that one of my things I can't stand, although I obviously understand why, is why people go on Facebook and just brag endlessly about their kids and all the good shit they do and never any of the bad shit. Where is it? What did you say?
I'll tell you what I said.
What better way to spend your Saturday night than a club baseball live stream from Pitt featuring career 186 hitter Tony Pucks Jr.? I used to call
that's
Shane
my
out.
Man, though, man. That's my boy. That's my baby. All 20 years of his aggravating ass. Happy birthday tomorrow, son number 3. But yeah, oh my God,
I used to call Shane out when he played.
Crazy.
Shane had some shitty games. I love calling him out when he would make whiff on a sack or make bad plays.
Sure.
I'd be the first one to call him out for that shit. Before we get out of here, Sabres, a big early season win on Saturday. Speaking of these must-win games, like with the Bills on Thursday, I almost felt like that Islanders game on Saturday, this even as early as the season was a must-win. A 3-1 game. Conley played great. I don't know your thoughts right now on the Sabres. We talked about them a little bit last week. Got 3 games to digest from since we last talked. They won 2 of them. They beat Tampa in overtime. They won Saturday. They lost a pretty ugly game against Calgary on Thursday. I don't know what your overall thoughts right now on this team about a week or so in.
The Calgary game left a lot of people uneasy, as it should have.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Islander game, renewed a lot of hope, although the Islanders were playing their second in 2 nights and had a pretty hard fought one against New Jersey, I think it was, the night before. And we're kind of ignoring that a little bit when we look at the lopsided stats against the Islanders. This is one of those cases where I'm more interested in the next game telling me about the previous one than I am, necessarily the Islander game telling me what I saw against Calgary. I don't think what I saw against Calgary was as bad as it looked. I don't think what we saw against the Islanders was as good as we looked. We need to even our record tomorrow night tonight, when it's showing against Montreal. When we even our record against Montreal, I'll look back at the Islander game, and feel good about it. But it is still crucial for this team to avoid the early season hole. And you're right. I mean, I heard you say must win, and I'm sure it raises eyebrows, especially Sabre Twitter, loves to be critical of people, reacting too much too soon, that sort of thing. But 1-4 would have been an ugly hole. And if you're able to come out of, Monday night 3-3, even with a tough one the next night against Ottawa, on back-to-back, I still think 3-3 gets you out of that early season hole and back in the game. But as far as the on ice performance is concerned, all off season long, man, there was just something about Thompson, Cousins, and Greenway I thought he loved. Maybe it's just something I loved because they're all like 6'5" or bigger, and they're quick, and it's just the size and skill of that line was really appealing to me. But I went out there a few times on Twitter, and I don't tweet much, and I'll just go under a Sabre Twitter account or something like that, whether it be an actual podcast or just someone who, a stat nerd, but I say that actually as a compliment. And I put it out there a bunch of times, man. I put it out there a bunch of times that I thought that was the right 1 through 6 chemistry. And I'm hoping I end up right. I'm hoping I end up right, because I think that shit's really, really fun, to look at. I mean, those guys, those are massive, massive dudes on that line. Cousins, Tompkins, and Greenway, man.
Yeah.
And if they can, they're a fun line to want to root for. And then, the byproduct of that is Middlestat between Tucken and Skinner. And I think everybody's feeling Casey Middlestat right now.
Yeah.
So I hope this, if it sticks, it means we're winning. So
Sure.
Obviously it all ties together. But I hope this top 6, and I hate to leave JJ Peterka out of it, because I think JJ Peterka is a top 6 player on this team. I just think the Greenway addition, to that line is the right recipe. But I don't want to leave Peterka out when I call, the current
Sure.
grouping the top 6. The only thing it does, though, man, is leave you a little thin at your third center, because you're eating up Cousins on that first line with Thompson, and now Middlestat's your 2, and now you're throwing out Tyler Jost to skate with JJ Peterka, and now you're taking a little of the offensive punch from Peterka out of play. But we'll see how that plays out over time. Get that first 6 going. All right, you got to score at the top. You got to create at the top. And I like what they roll out right now to do that. And then you can work on what your bottom 6 looks like after that.
Worth noting too, after this Montreal home game on Monday night, which by the way will be live. Talking Buffalo will be live right after the game. I'm gonna have PK from the Buffalo Sports Collective, so we'll recap that game live right afterwards. But anyway,
or are you at?
It'll be in my studio, or no, actually we'll be doing it remote, just through StreamYard. But anyway, we'll be doing it live after the game. 5 of their next 7 after this are on the road, so they're gonna be on the road a lot. I mean, you hit on a lot of the players that are looking good of late. Devin Levi, man. So he's got 4 starts. He's 1-3, 8.892 save percentage. I thought the Flames game, he looked a little lethargic, and it kind of concerns me. Only is it too big of an assumption right now for this guy to just come in and be your number 1 who's going to play? I thought maybe 55 to 60 games. I'm starting to think maybe this early in his career that's going to be too many games. And now maybe it's like 40 to 45, maybe up to 50 at the most. Obviously seeing what Comrie did Saturday was promising, but I don't know. Do you have concerns about Levi, or is it just some early season puck luck?
Nah, I
think he's played terrible. I didn't think he was.
I know. I'm not. Still too small. Still too small of a sample size for me. What I don't want to happen to Levi is what happened to Ryan Miller. All right, I could still remember the interview, man. I think I even remember the game. It was like a 6-1 beating to the Flyers. Can't remember the year exactly, but it was an early. It was early in his career. It was an early audition. That's the word I want there. It was an early audition for Miller. He was very frustrated, man. I believe there were tears in the post game interview. He would later, I'm quite certain, go down to Rochester that same season. I don't want that to happen to Levi. That stays with me. That Miller wasn't mismanagement. I don't know, because he became Ryan Miller.
Yeah.
Right. You know what I mean? Does he become right? He probably becomes Ryan Miller without that early, hiccup in his career. But I'm sure, if he look back at it, he probably thought he grew from it, and he probably did. I'm just not looking for that to be the case with Levi. All right. I don't want a crushing, demotion to happen. I need to guard against that. And I do think he's special. And I think, he's special enough and good enough that that he will be able to avoid that. And that's saying a lot, because what you're saying is he's going to go straight from college to the NFL and never see a minor league game his entire career. Is really what you're saying. If you think he survives this season up, up on the big club the whole time.
Yeah, I know he's a good goalie. We saw it last year, and we saw what he did in college. It's just, I don't know, that Flames game, like I said, kind of lethargic, a little slow, kind of feel like I am right now, hungover, lethargic, and slow. And then the defense is, I feel like it's been spotty so far this year. Now, in full disclosure, I don't want to say I didn't watch the Islanders game. I'll tell you that I don't remember much of watching the Islanders game
Good night.
on Saturday night. But that game aside, because the Sabres won and they played well, but Clifton and Johnson are not off to great starts. I looked up this now, plus minus can be such an overrated stat. It's kind of like tackles in football. You don't always tell the story with plus minus, but Connor's already a -6 for the season, and Eric Johnson's already -4. Now, probably not the start that you're hoping for from two new veteran defensemen in the lineup. That Calgary game on Thursday, they didn't give him a lot of help. The whole defense as a whole. It's kind of been that way for much of the season early on. So I don't know. I'm not sold on the defense right now.
Johnson got a ton of love after the Calgary game. For his comments in the locker room afterwards. It was funny though, man. He got a ton of love from your traditional journos. All right. Your locker room guys, Harrington, Paul Hamilton, that sort of thing.
Right.
He was talking about team defense. He was just like, we're not going to win hockey games without a commitment to team defense. The flip side, though, is there was some real smart Sabre Twitter chatter. And the guys, Chad
D. Dominicis.
There you go. Yep. And others who was like, look, I mean, we respect what a veteran like Eric Johnson says and feels, but we've got the numbers right here to show that your offense is struggling right now. Not your defense necessarily. So it was a very real interesting dynamic to see, how those comments from Johnson were perceived, old school and new school. But I think the most important piece of that is how they were received in the room. And the response was the Islander game, right?
Yeah.
The response was the ultra responsible defense first, but we're going to score off that performance that we saw against the Islanders. So I don't disagree that on the ice, the new defensive additions have taken a little time to to find their way. But I when you mentioned Johnson, I think that the biggest footnote from his week were his comments after Calgary, how they were received across Saberland, and how the team responded to him. Man, I need hockey to be fun, because I've got a feeling we're going to have less fun than we hoped we'd have during football season.
It's a great way to wrap this episode up.
It's a terrible way to wrap this up.
Well,
but Bengals 48, Bills 21.
You know what's going to...
That's not really what I think. Can I reserve the right for a truer prediction next week after Tampa Bay?
Yeah.
I'm trying to win your people some money. Is what I'm trying to do.
Do you know what the most frustrating thing for me, I think, is going to be this week? It was borderline like that this past week. It's going to be worse this week, because the Bills offense did enough late that when people who want to defend this offense are going to point to DVOA and EPA, and
there won't be enough time though. The Thursday start means we don't have to fucking live with that shit.
I hope not.
Bro, I'm so glad it's Thursday, mainly because I don't want to hear people
with respect to fans and many content creators. It's just, this ain't the week to talk up the Bills offense and point to advanced stats. Come on and fucking play better in the first 30 minutes of the game, and you're not a 4-3 football team. You're probably...
Should I go?
Huh?
Should I go
to the game?
Yeah.
What's the weather? I would come down to the weather.
It would come down to
like
this. It does come.
This
down
team's
to
not deserving right now of you being cold. Like if it's a comfortable night,
I'm good
wear
with that.
like a light hoodie or a light fleece or something like that. then you could sit in the stands. But I wouldn't be like getting cold. And it's certainly not that you're a tailgate guy anyway, but this is definitely not a tailgate worthy type of game. This is
but people will, bro.
tense,
I mean, I look like if people get a chance to start drinking after a half day of work on Thursday, I mean, it's not a tailgate for old, geezers like us two, but the tailgating will be on Thursday.
This is a high. I mean, they're all high pressure games, but this game's really high pressure. They have to win this football game. It's straight up. You cannot lose to Tampa Bay with Cincinnati on the horizon, a road trip too. You can't lose to Tampa at home, prime time. The nation's watching. They're going to be down on the Bills this week, which will be justified. If the Bills aren't in the top 10 in a lot of power rankings, I wouldn't have beef with that. I don't think they deserve to be. Are they a top 10 team right now? Do you think they're a top 10 team right now?
I thought that was rhetorical. You're asking me that? Have you listened? No, they're not a top 10 team right now.
Again, they got a lot of shit to prove and a lot of shit to fix. So we'll see how that plays out. But anyway, like I said, tomorrow night or tonight, depending on when you're listening to this, after the Sabres Montreal game, I'll have PK from the Buffalo Sports Collective. We'll recap that. Busy week. For Tone Pucks, I'm Pat Moran. Talk to you soon.